Welcome to Phase 1, Identifying Requirements and Assembling the Network. I've got to tell you, when I envisioned this series, this nugget was actually at the forefront of my vision. Meaning, I started thinking about CCNA labs, and if you're taking this in order, you've heard a lot of my mindset and my goals for this series. But when I started thinking about it, I really had, well, I can't use his name, a guy that I'm very close to in mind who wanted to break into the Cisco world, and he did. He went through the certification track, he got his CCNA, and then he started saying, well, Jeremy, he started giving me a call. He's like, well, Jeremy, how do how do I really do this? I mean, this is like real now. I'm at this company. They've got a computer. It's not working. It's connected to a switch. I've checked it. It's not administratively down. Like, help me figure this out. And I, sat through the phone with him, and I'm just thinking, it's like he's missing a lot of the big picture vision of networks that certification unfortunately just doesn't give to you. You can get a lot of the, okay, here's how I do this. And he's a configuration whiz. And I tell him, hey, set up VLAN 2. He's like, bam, bam, bam. Save the config, done. VLAN 2 is configured, but he just doesn't have that vision for what VLAN 2 really is and how it affects the company and what does that do really for me. So sorry, I don't mean to digress so far as we get into this, but I really want to convey my heart in this nugget because this is really the foundation for everything. Meaning, you walk into the customer, they said, hey, we just bought this new building. That's my picture of the customer saying, hey, we've just got this new building. Let's set it up for a Cisco network. That's what this is going to be about. So I'm going to go through the Phase 1 lab guide, which I've written, just kind of take that piece by piece, and talk about, okay, now where do you start in this empty building? We'll walk through the physical requirements, the logical requirements, and then everybody's favorite, documentation. So as we get into reviewing the Phase 1 objectives, let me put some framework around this. You and me are a consultant. We have come to this organization called Nugget Lab Industries. They got our number from a friend who said we did some good work, and so we've come to them. They've pretty much said we want to meet with you because we're rolling out a new building, and we would like to set up the network infrastructure for it. Now we don't have any on-staff experienced people that deal with Cisco. We have a couple Windows admins that maintain our day-to-day operations on the Windows side of things, but they just aren't comfortable rolling out the network infrastructure. So that's why they've called you. So the first thing that you do, you come to this company, you walk into their boardroom, kind of nervous, right? And if it's one of the first times, you lay out your profile. You say, yeah, I've got a whole lot of experience. I set up my house for voice over IP once. It was really, you do whatever you do. The point is, you're sitting at a meeting room with the executive officials that work for this organization, and they're rolling out their requirements to you. So that's the framework. Let's bring it up. So here's the PDF for Nugget Labs Industries, which this is part of the file pack that you should be able to download from the CVT Nuggets website. And when you go there, this is just an overview of Phase 1, identifying requirements, and so on. So it starts off with this scenario. Just kind of saying what I was mentioning. Nugget Labs Industries, it's our little playground test company, has grown. They have a corporate center, and currently it's got some space limitations, 5 employees sharing a single cubicle at the same time. They've now leased an additional office. So this is the new office that we're going to be talking about. That's 20 miles from their headquarter locations. Will eventually connect to the headquarters, but initially will be set up independently, just with a internet connection to get internet access for that building. They've heard of you, your ninja-like skills, so here's where we're at. So this is the gathering information. Now this kind of information you would gather from your initial meeting with the customer. This is when you're sitting around that boardroom table and you're the one prompting them with a lot of these questions, and a lot of these things they are giving you. You've got your laptop open, your notepad, whatever you're taking notes with, and you're jotting this stuff down from them. And they might start off with something like this. They're saying, okay, we've got this new office. We are just overcrowded here. We need to move some employees there. You ask the question, you say, well, how many employees are you looking at? What kind of size are we at? Their answer, that's our first bullet right there. The new office will eventually house 75 employees, each with their own Cisco IP phone and PC. Now, just right there, I mean, now I've jotted in the requirement Cisco IP phone, of course, because I'm talking Cisco, but the execs aren't talking that way. They're talking like, okay, we've got employees. They're going to each need their own cubicle. And then you follow up and you say, okay, what's going to be in that cubicle? And they say, well, probably their PC, of course, that they're going to be working on. Maybe some of them will have laptops that they're going to be working with. And in your mind, again, as a network engineer, you should say, okay, PC, okay, got Ethernet connection in each jack, Cat5, Cat6 cable, run back to the switch. Okay, so that's already orbiting your mind. How many jacks in each cubicle? Well, I'm assuming they're talking each employee's got a cubicle, so that's one jack per cubicle. And then they come out, or you ask them, and they go, okay, what about a phone system? They go, oh yeah, we need a phone system, of course, for the new thing. And you say, well, have you considered voice over IP? Oh yeah, we want to do that. We're doing it at our corporate office. I'm just kind of playing this conversation. So just in that one statement right there, they go, okay, initial 75 employees, each with their own Cisco IP phone and PC. Right there, you go, okay, that's a big amount of configuration. Number one, IP phone needs to plug into the wall jack. IP phone, security-wise, needs to be on a separate VLAN from the PC. PC needs to plug into the IP phone because on the back of the phone itself are going to be two jacks, one incoming and one going. Now, again, provided they bought the right kind of IP phone. Some IP phones don't have a switch built into it to where you can daisy chain a computer from it. So all of these things, again, just from that one statement should be orbiting your mind. Then they say, now this office is going to grow. They're planning on over the next 5 years, they're going to eventually scale to 200 employees. So you have to start thinking, okay, 75 employees initially, 200 employees over 5 years. Are we going to outfit the infrastructure for that growth initially? Are we going to be adding switches later on? What's our plan there? Yeah, again, just assumptions are going through your head, requirements are going through your head, but all these things we're going to flesh out in just a moment. This is just, we're sitting at the round table, and I want to give you my thought process as they go through. So, you're talking with them. Windows admins also sitting at the table. They say, oh yeah, we are planning on installing a pair of servers for that office, just two to start off with, 75 employees. We shouldn't need any more than that, at least initially. And they say the plan is to manage the IP addresses for DHCP on these servers. Now again, and I'm just emphasizing this through these first initial bullets, that's not something they usually ask right away or just roll out to you. You're going to be asking that because you're the network engineer. You're thinking, okay, 75 employees, 200 over the next 5 years. Okay, IP addresses, subnets. We need a subnet for the phone. We need a subnet for the computer. Now, bing, okay, DHCP comes to your mind. You're thinking, I can do DHCP. I can put it on my Cisco devices. So Windows admins are at the table. You say, hey Jeff, hey Mike, that's, you can see in the bullet, that's our two window admins. Hey Jeff, hey Mike, how would you like to do DHCP? And I will say, in my experience, the Windows guys are usually like, we'll do that. Why? Because they know how to set up DHCP in the Microsoft Management Console. It's very easy to do. I got the little next finish button wizard, and they can see how many addresses are out there. And I will say, I'm coming from the Cisco world. I like doing DHCP on the Cisco devices because I'm comfortable with that. I know how to do it, but I also recognize that DHCP is one of the things that the Windows guys deal with all the time. If they are troubleshooting a problem that you and I are no longer involved in, we've set up the network, we're gone, and they're trying to troubleshoot a problem, they're doing an IP config, IP renew, they're trying to get that IP address on the PC, and it's not getting there. If that's part of the Cisco device, we're getting a call. They're picking up the phone saying, hey, we're not getting DHCP, whereas it may not even be related to the Cisco device. Maybe the network connection is not working. Maybe it's a bad network card, all that kind of stuff. And if they manage the DHCP, if they've got control of the pools and the IP address isn't showing up in the client, they're going to feel more comfortable going, oh, okay, well, let's check the servers. The DHCP service started. Let's swap out the client. It's just giving them more control over stuff they do day to day. So that's why a lot of times I push DHCP onto the Windows side. The last thing on this is that we do have the contact information of both Jeff and Mike, so that we can get a hold of them should we need them during our setup. So moving on, we've got the new office, 2 stories building. We've got the MDF. Now again, if you're new into this world, the MDF is where it's kind of like the main hub. It's where all the IT equipment typically goes in a building. And that's going to be in the northwest corner of the first floor. Due to a workman's strike, poor planning, other human issues, the IDF, intermediate distribution frame, is on the second floor. Now, an IDF is it's a small closet a lot of times where you just have a switch, maybe a server. It's essentially a place to put network equipment that's not the MDF. So a lot of times due to where cables run and all that. Now, you might say, okay, what's up with the workman's strike, poor planning? I'm just saying there's a lot of whacked out stuff that happens. You'll be in a building, you're like, why is this way? Why did they have the IDF on completely opposite end of the building? I can't even reach it with Ethernet cable. It's beyond 100 meters. So now you introduce fiber optic cabling into the picture. So there's more just information. We're keeping it in the back of our mind as we're designing this. We've got, this is also a big thing. The building contractor has already run cabling, Cat 6 Ethernet jack. Now, last time I'll say this, just talking about the politics, not so much the politics, but the human interaction. You're sitting in this, when you're getting this information, you're sitting at a conference table with the corporate owners. A lot of times they're not throwing this kind of stuff out there to you. You at this meeting, you might have the company owners, but you also might have the building contractor. You might have the Windows guy, and you're walking in. They're looking to you to lead the conversation. They've brought you in. You're the consultant, or maybe you're on staff. You're the network guy. So beforehand, there's a lot of stuff that you would have pre-planned to ask. They're not going to volunteer the fact that the company or the building has already been wired for Ethernet, or the fact that the building has not been wired for Ethernet. And there's nothing worse than getting there and doing the deployment, and you go, okay, where's the cable? And they go, cable? I thought that's what you do. You're the network guy, right? And you go, yeah, I'm the Cisco guy, but I don't run cable. That's not, that should have been. Yeah, I can tell you, I've been in situations where they've built the entire building. The building contractor thought the network team was going to be running the cable, or it just was never part of the plan, and we had an entire building set up without any Ethernet cabling. And there's nothing, it's easy for the contractor to run the cable while they're building the building because there's no drywall up. But once the drywall up, it is a much more tedious job. So anyhow, so just keep in mind, whenever you are coming to this kind of environment, boardroom table, you need to come with a checklist of things that you want to ask. You want to ask about the Ethernet cable. You want to ask, is there rack space for my devices that I'm going to be installing? You want to have all these things pre-planned in your mind, and I'll give you more on how you can do that, how you can create this kind of scheme before you get there. Don't look for other people to just volunteer all the information that you need. You are the leader of this discussion. You are the guy that they want to talk to, or the gal that they want to talk to, sitting around the table. So, moving on, we've got Nugget Lab is planning to use a voice over IP phone system for the office. Each user will have an IP phone in their cubicle or office space. The installation / management of the phone system of itself is going to be the responsibility of another company. However, the network should be prepared to support all these additional devices. I was so tempted when I was creating the series. I was like, oh man, I should just add like 5 nuggets on setting up a voice over IP network using maybe Call Manager Express from Cisco, or even a third-party phone system. It's really, really easy to do, but I had to keep it within scope, so that's why I brought in this other company. But I will, as we go through this series, I'm going to add a lot more on how to prepare for voice over IP, setting up a phone system. What are your thoughts, at least from the network infrastructure side? And maybe I can entice you to get into the CCNA voice side of things, because it's really cool. So dropping down, new office will need a Wi-Fi implementation. every office nowadays seems to need this, and rightly so. We have laptops. Since probably about 5 years ago, there's been more laptop sales than there have been desktops. They're just more convenient. Companies realize that when they get an employee a laptop, that employee is now expected to work from home all hours of the day instead of being tied to a desktop just sitting in the office. So Wi-Fi does become a significant piece of everything that we do. So to keep budgets in check, they're going to be using off-the-shelf Cisco small business wireless access points. We're not going to get into controllers or the full-blown Wi-Fi deployment, although I'll mention that as we go through here. They want these wireless access points to host 2 wireless networks. They want NL, and the NL just is short for Nugget Labs, Corp, and NL Pub. And if somebody joins the Corp side, they should be, of course, passed through security checks and things like that. They've at least got a pre-shared key to get on there, and that allows them to access the corporate network resources, the servers, the internal printers, all that kind of stuff. If they join NL Pub, that's going to be short for public, all they get is internet access. Okay, that's their goal. Now, again, they're probably not rolling this out to you. This is something that you would have asked them. Didn't I say that was going to be the last time I bring this up? Well, here's why I'm bringing this up now. Because a lot of times people say, yeah, we need wireless, but they don't know what that means. They just know, okay, we need Wi-Fi. And it's up to you. You have to say, well, okay, is this just, is this just for employees, or are you going to have guests in the building that need to get on the Wi-Fi? And they're going to go, oh, guests. Well, we want guests to be able to get on. Follow-up question. Okay, guests, are you going to give them a pre-shared key? Or do you want them part of your corporate network to where they could potentially get to the servers and the printers and all that kind of stuff? Or do you just want them on the internet? 90% of the time, they're going to say, oh, no. We want the guest people, we want on the internet, but we want it to be able to be easy for them to get on. We don't want them to have to know, keys and changing keys and things like that. And so there's a lot of pieces that go into that. So that's part of your questioning. So Nugget Lab Industries would like you to assess the network, make some recommendations on internet connectivity options. So we'll talk about that. They want to evaluate their connections to the internet. What's the best, fastest, most cost-effective way to do it, and stability-wise. And then also they want to follow up and say, well, how do we connect this branch office to our corporate center? If both of them are running voice over IP, Shazam, that's awesome, because now you can tie them together over a WAN link, and they can just have 4-digit dialing between the offices. No phone lines are necessary. They don't have to think about all that stuff. So we'll have to make some recommendations on this. Finally, during the discussions, Nugget Lab Industries found out that you work primarily from your home office. So they said because they value your technical prowess, they have offered to provide you an office space in the MDF, a little area that you're able to work away from home, your home away from home, if you will. And they said, but anything that you do there, we really don't want to affect our corporate network. We want it to be completely isolated so you don't interfere with their day-to-day operation. Now, I know you're sitting there going, okay, come on. Seriously, I've had a couple companies offer me this. I do consulting for them. They find out, oh, so you work primarily out of your home, and it usually leads to some casual conversation like, well, how do you like that? And it's my typical response. My response is the grass is always greener. I've worked full time in the office. I know that feeling, and I know when I'm there, I'm like, man, if I could just work from home, and I could, I'm driving in, I'm in rush hour traffic. I'm like, it would be awesome. And now I've worked from home for the last 8 years, 9 years, 8 or 9 years is my primary workplace, and I can tell you, I've had so many thoughts of like, man, if I could just get out of this house, I'm going crazy, the 5 o'clock rolls around, I'm done, but I don't feel like I'm done because I'm here all day, and I'm always working, I feel like, and I'm like, man, if I could just have an office that I could get out, the kids are bugging me during the day, they're like, Daddy, I'm like, this is awesome that I'm with them, but, the grass is always greener, my friend. So I've taken advantage of this. I have places where I can go to get away and I can work there, but most of the time I don't. So all that being said, let me boil this down into the objectives. The objective is, based on this information, they want you to create a proposal, design, and implementation plan for their new office by next Friday. Submissions should include the following elements. So, and now these elements are things that I thought of, and these are typical elements that I put in a proposal when I give it to the client. We're going to talk about the requirements document, the equipment that we're going to need to order, the VLANs that are necessary, any subnets. These are things that I put in a typical proposal packet that I give to them. That without these things, it's going to quickly fall apart. I also have switch port connections, and then any necessary Visio or network diagrams that should go along with it. So now at this point, we've read through kind of the requirements for the lab. I've kind of ad-libbed, add my own thoughts on each one of these things. Let me talk about now boiling this down to reality. This document was generated from a meeting that you could have with a client. You now have to take this back with you and create all these pieces to go forward with. This is not something that studying for the CCNA exam would prepare you for. CCNA exam is more focused on, do you know how to change the host name? Can you set up a WAN link? Do you know what happens when this MAC address comes in on this switch port and the switch doesn't know about it? Those kind of technical details are awesome and will create an awesome engineer, but where I think the CCNA exam falls short is you have a lot of people that are awesome at configuration that just miss the whole big picture behind how do you really do this and set this up from scratch. So let's first start off talking about the requirements document. Actually, let's do this. Before we jump right into the requirements document, I want to take you through the mindset of how to even approach a project like this, because I still remember my first consulting project when I walked away from a meeting, just kind of like I described a moment ago. I thought I pretty much had everything I needed, and I sat down at my desk. I go, okay, well, and it just started becoming overwhelming to me, to where the more I thought, the more I'm like, I've bit off more than I can chew. I can't do this. This is crazy. What am I doing? Why am I doing this? What, you start having this like the remorse, like why did I take this job kind of thing, because you fear just the whole scope of the project. So the first thing that I do is get myself organized, and I still do this to this day. I need to create the modules. I need to break it down into bite-sized pieces, and I can't take credit for any of this. All credit for this goes to Stephen Covey and my wife. When I married my wife, she was actually a certified Stephen Covey trainer. She taught people how to get organized. How she met me and married me, I will never know, because I am the most disorganized person that could ever be. I forget everything. Anyway, I could tell you stories and stories beyond that. So anyway, she, initially was trying to put me into Stephen Covey template, the 4 quadrants. I'm like, this is hurting my head. I just want to start on something. And through years, literally years, I finally found a process that works for me, and maybe it'll help you too. It's kind of Stephen Covey-ish, but I wouldn't call it that in any way. Stephen Covey would spit on my my Excel spreadsheet. He would mock me. But the point is, it helps me. It's simple enough for me to get and to keep myself organized. And maybe I know a lot of you have my similar mindset way of thinking. So here it is. Let me just stop talking about it. What I do, and I totally trimmed this down just for this project, is I have an Excel spreadsheet like this. I put my projects. I first off put a client. I have many clients that I do work for. I just have Nugget Labs right here, and I have the major project heading, if you will. Now Stephen Covey would have this be 1.0. This would be 1.01, 1.02, and I can't do that. So what I did, I said, okay, we've got an initial meeting with Nugget Labs corporate. Initially when I create this spreadsheet, I say, okay, this is when I assigned it. So if I had a due date, I would put another column in here. This is due by such and such time, and then the little subheading, there's only one here, is I have discuss upcoming branch office rollout, the goals, staff involved, key contacts, and when I was creating this, what I would have done before I ever went to that meeting is I would say I need to create initial questionnaire. I love Excel because it doesn't underline something if it's spelled wrong, but I don't like Excel because it doesn't underline something if it's spelled wrong. So hopefully that's spelled right. Create the initial questionnaire for on-site visit. And then what I do is I go over here and I say, okay, that'll take me, and this is my guesstimate. I say that's going to take me 30 minutes or so. Let me unbold everything. So I say 30 minutes, I create that questionnaire and be good. I also have a little priority system that I do. 1, 2, and 3. 1 is like, got to get it done. It's happening now. I'm meeting with them tomorrow. 2 is like, okay, this is urgent, but nothing's down, no network's on fire, that kind of thing. And then 3 is like, it'd be nice. This is kind of it'd be nice sort of feature. I'll get to it when I get to it. So that keeps me organized. So what I would do is I'd create that little initial spreadsheet. I'd say, okay, it's completed. I'm good to go. I would discuss it and so on. So right here, this is where we're at. And by the way, I take all these. You might say, well, what's the time for? I use Outlook, Outlook Calendar, and I go on there, and each one of these is a little Outlook box I actually put on my Outlook calendar. I don't want to. I'd love to show it to you, but I can't because, well, maybe. Hang on. Okay, this will work. I created a new little blank calendar in Outlook. So this is what I would do with that agenda. I would come over to that Excel spreadsheet. I would say, okay, I need to create, and I would usually have more of a description than just requirements document. But what I do is I copy that, come in here, and I say, okay, at 1 p.m. Monday, I put priority 1 Nugget Lab :15 create requirements document. You can get down to 15-minute increments in Outlook, but I did that once. It freaked me out. I had to go back to 30 minutes. It was too stressful. So what I do is I say, okay, 15 minutes, that's the amount of time it'll take. I see the priority, I see who it's for, and I go, oh, okay, requirements document. So, bling, it pops up on my phone, pops up on my Outlook, and I know you're like, what's this have to do with CCNA? Everything, my friend. This is how you stay organized. So a little bit of everything in this series. So that's what I do. So I would then create, I'd say, okay, I need to create the requirements document. I need to create the equipment order, and that always takes me long. I would say 120 minutes, 2 hours is still not enough time. It just, for some reason, once I get to researching equipment, figuring out what goes where, oh, has that feature, calling sales rep, it just takes forever. So create the equipment order, VLAN 7, you can see all these, and I just provision about 30 minutes a piece for each of those, although in the back of my mind I'm like, just double it, because it always takes more time than I think. Okay, so now we've defined kind of the scope, we've gotten ourselves organized, we've scheduled some time to work on this stuff. First piece of that Excel spreadsheet was the requirements document. Let me bring up this application. And if you've had some of the recent CBT Nuggets with me, I've discovered this application called OneNote. And I know some of you may be thinking, OneNote? You didn't know about that? Or isn't that Microsoft Office thing you always uncheck when you install? What is that? So OneNote is just it's a notebook. And I love this thing because it fits my style of like I just need free form. I need for instance I have you can see let me show you. I've got and I minimize some of my other notebooks over here, but I created one for Nuggets Labs. A tab in there I created for initial deployment. You can create more tabs. I could say, well, I need a tab for let's say on-site visits, and you can, and underneath each one of these tabs, you can have individual notebook. Well, sorry, I was typing, but you didn't see that. So I'll do on-site visits. Put that in there. I've got the tab, and then over here I've got my pages where I can say, okay, well, this page it already dates and times it. Let's just say on site initial visit. And you can go in there and you can put all your notes and all that kind of stuff. It has a little screen clipping utility. I can, what is it? Alt S? Well, yeah, that's it. So I can go in there. I can snag a little screen capture, copy it to my clipboard, and then just kind of slam that in there. Again, it's just a little free-form, room for all kind of notebook, which I like. I like that kind of thing. I'm not structured into it. If I want to do a bullet list, I can say, well, let's go ahead and click over here, do a bullet list, be like, this is my bullet, and so on. That's what I do. So anyway, that's the kind of free-form place. I just put all of my notes, my thoughts, my documents until I need to email it to somebody or something like that. So I'm going to delete my little tab here. Now focus over here on the requirements document. The requirements document is uh, a way to outline what you're doing for a project, and then what what, like, this is going to be my design. This is what I see as the requirements, and these are the assumptions that I've made. Let me see if I can kind of move this down a little bit so you can see more. So this would be what I would boil down that meeting, the Microsoft Word document or the PDF I just showed you that really described all of the requirements that I got. First thing I would do, I would document everybody that was in that meeting. Not only their email address, but their phone number if I needed to get a hold of them, if I could get it. Like there's Jeff Service, Windows Admin Lead. We've got, here's his email address and here's his phone number. So I always have that. Then underneath that, and here's the big part of it all. I've got the requirements and the assumptions that I have in place. The requirements, and just see if I can move this around a little bit. The requirements are the must-have. This is what I was told in the meeting. This is what needs to be done. Network will initially have 75 users between 2 floors. I believe in that requirement document. It also said, I think I skimmed over it, 50 of those users will be on the main floor, and the rest, or 25 users, will be on the second floor. So this is our requirement here. It says network must handle both voice over IP and data. It should handle both unsecure and secure Wi-Fi. There's going to be a private lab area, office area for me or you, the consultant, in the MDFs, and that has to be separate from the network. And I'm going to be suggesting options for internet connectivity. That's like what I walked away from that meeting with. Now I hit my assumptions. And let me say before I read through this, this would be emailed to every single person that was in that meeting. Bob, Sarah, Jeff, Mike, Grappler Construction Company. They're all going to get it because this is the cover your tail kind of document that says, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm assuming. Are you all good with that? Sign off, reply, update me if there's anything that you see that's not in here. Because otherwise, you don't want to reach the end of a project and they go, well, what about this? And you go, you didn't, huh? What are you talking about? It's like that kind of thing. And then you get in the finger pointing. It gets nasty really quick when somebody thinks they told you something. You got to have a documentation trail. So, assumptions, and these are the assumptions that I made just when I was reading through their requirements. Each user will have one workstation. That's why I'm wiring up. I'm provisioning the number of users based on that. Each user will have one IP phone. Network will handle 1 gigabit per second Ethernet connectivity. Now, they never said that. I'm just saying this is the kind of goal I'm after. If they come back and they say, whoa, the cost is too high on the equipment, I'll say, okay, well, one of the assumptions is I provision this whole thing for gigabit Ethernet, which is modern, and now everything's shipping with gigabit network cards. But we can save some cost by dropping down to 10 100 ports and limiting people to 100 megabits per second. Then they can, hash it out there. Dual fiber optic cabling run is completed between the MDF and IDF. Remember, it was on the opposite end of the building, so the cabling company said they ran all the cable, and I'm assuming, is my assumption, that they have run 2, count it, 2 fiber optic lines. That's why I'm also including Grappler Construction Company on the email so that they go, oh, yes, we did, or we did not. Let's figure this out. We've got to charge, blah, blah, blah. Fiber optic cable so that I can have that. Internet connectivity options will be suggested, agreed upon, and installed before the move-in date. All cable runs terminate to the IDF and MDF. Again, another one for Grappler Construction Company because they may patch something in a little small closet they didn't tell me about. IDF2 we'll call it on the second floor. And then I go, oh, well, then I need another switch. And I didn't plan for that. That wasn't in the quote that I gave the customer. So that's a big one. Each cubicle and office will have at least one Cat 6 Ethernet jack. Jeremy C. Consulting, that's my consulting company, right? I just made this up. We'll be ordering all necessary equipment and patch panels, or I should say patch cables for the operation. So patch panels, switches, network cables, because you don't want, for instance, you get there and there's a box of cable that was ordered by Grappler on the floor that you go, oh, well, what do I do with my box now? So they know that, I know that. Windows servers will have redundant connections. I'm assuming 2 network cards per server. IDF will initially be set up with a 48 port switch, allowing 48% growth. Again, taking the 25 users and then saying, okay, well, that'll eat up 25 of the ports. But you also have to, when I throw this little percentage out there, think this through with me. you have more users that are going to come there. You don't know whether they're going to end up on the second floor or the third floor. So they said 25 users on the second floor. I'm going to throw out a 48 port switch, which allows 48% growth because there's going to be 25 ports used by the users. But you also have to think about there's stuff you never thought about, like, oh, there's a printer on the second floor. Well, there's a port. Oh, I mean, there's two printers. Oh, there's two ports. Oh, the dual fiber cables. There's two ports. The wireless access points that plug in on the second floor. There's 5 ports. You see what I mean? So always, never ever buy a switch. I say never ever, like I've never done this. Never ever buy a switch where you've got 40 users and you're buying a 48 port switch, because I guarantee there's always the stuff you forget about. I forget about it. I would say provision 20% just for the stuff you forgot about, and then say maybe after the stuff I forgot, there's 28% growth that is after that. MDF will be initially set up with two 48 port switches, allowing 44% growth. Again, 50 users, couple servers. Then you got to think about the stuff you forgot: the router connection, wireless access point connections, printers. You get the idea. So that's going to be where we start. Now you've put that in as an assumption. They know it to be true. So when they do a hiring spree of, let's say, 30 people, and you go, oh, we're out of ports, they don't go, what? You go, hey, well, this was in the assumptions document. So right here, PCs and IP phones will be located no more than 10 feet from the wall jack, and I'll put 5 to 7 feet on average. Why did I put that in there? Well, because I'm buying a bunch of patch cables from Monoprice. That's the vendor that I chose for this little scenario. And I'm going to buy, maybe 50 10-foot cables and 100 5-foot and 100 7-foot cables. So I have a bunch of those. But if all these computers are all 10 feet away, I'm going to run out of cable. So I got to let them know, hey, no more than 10 feet, but on average, most of them will be 5 to 7 feet. Is everybody good with that? Gruber, or sorry, I say Gruber. That's the actual company. No, Grappler is, did you put the wall jack close enough to where the computers will be and all that? So there's that. I'm going to have a single internet router providing internet connectivity. There is no redundancy on that. They are aware of that because I'm notating in my assumptions right here. If you lose the router, you lose the internet. Same thing here. I'm going to provide a single core layer 3 switch. This is going to give us our VLANs and our routing between VLANs. That's not going to be redundant. So if that goes down, pretty much, well, yeah, the whole company goes down if that goes down, because the servers are going to be on one VLAN. I'll show you my VLAN plan in just a moment. The clients are on another, and the wireless is on another, and the internet's on another. So we've got all these different VLANs, and if the core switch goes down, then you're not going to be able to route between those. So essentially everybody's network connectivity will go with it. But you've put in your assumptions, and they're probably going to ask. They're going to say, what do you mean single core layer 3 switch? Now you have a chance to explain. Well, based on the budget constraints, based on the uptime you were saying, I thought it would be acceptable for this. But I'll tell you what, for an extra $10,000 or whatever, and I'll show you the equipment list in a moment, whatever cost you have, you can add a second one. And here's what benefits that'll be. It'll be my time to install it. You assemble the quote, you do all that, and so that's it gives you plenty more to talk about. So from there, it says PSTN calling for voice over IP network will be handled by SIP trunk over the internet. Now, if you don't know much about voice over IP, you might go, what does that mean? Well, it means that I'm buying a router that doesn't have what's called FXO or voice T1 modules installed in it, because I'm assuming the voice over IP provider that they said was handling all their phones has that covered via SIP trunk. And if they had anything, that other company they mentioned will bring this in. SIP trunk over the internet is that's the next generation PSTN, public switch telephone network calling, to where you don't have phone lines anymore. All of your connections go across data, and that, by the time you hear this, maybe even that's the primary way of doing it. It's moving fast because it's so much more efficient. Last assumption that I made here is the MDF and IDF have sufficient power and cooling for the equipment to be installed. That's a big one. You don't want to install and you find out it turns into a furnace and all your equipment starts shutting down because it's exceeding the heat capabilities of that. So that's most of the time going to be in the construction company. They install cooling, air conditioned units, that kind of thing. Sometimes it falls in your court. You may have to say, okay, I need to buy a X ton unit to cool this room, and whatever method that you use to provide cooling for it. Okay, wow. I didn't realize just how much information there would be to talk about here, but it's so good stuff. I have that warm, fuzzy feeling in my stomach right now. I'm like, oh, I feel so good giving you this information to make you successful when you're doing this kind of thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this into multiple nuggets. I think I can wrap it all up in the next one. I think. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I know I can. So there will be a part two of this, and we'll talk about going deeper, provisioning the VLANs, provisioning the subnets. I mean, getting into some of the technical stuff that maybe in the CCNA you were thinking, okay, well now I know subnetting, but now I'm going to say, okay, here's where you're going to apply that skill. You got to have that skill because of what I'm about to show you. So for now, I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.